you. I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad and neutral. I don't know, but still, like, I'm not gonna lay down somewhere else. Right, like, can I? No, I don't want to even attempt. I'm gonna fail.
I think you should start your autograph session by belly dancing.
Yeah, definitely. Yoga mat. Yoga
That's such a great idea.
I have so
And you can join me.
Yes. I don't know how to
Bring all the boys to the eye.
I mean,
Yes.
like, have fun.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Looks like we're just switching out. I'm Morgan Berry, except taller. So you already know all the stuff I've done. Hey, my name's Chris Patton. I'm a voice actor. Is that what I do, Morgan?
I don't know what you do.
I
don't know your work.
I'm a belly dancer.
I'm just kidding.
No, so okay. I'm a voice actor. I've been voice acting for a long time. For ADV films and Sentai and Funimation and Bang Zoom and Okratron and I think I've worked for every dubbing studio in the country except I've never worked for NYAV Post.
Me neither. They're
Bastards.
I know.
You know, and Mike Senator, since I've gotten to LA, Mike Senator is like, well, we're gonna bring you in, man. We're gonna bring you in. I'm super hairy. We're gonna bring you in. Oh my gosh. He didn't actually say that, but he is super hairy. It's like a Wookiee.
I'll tell you later.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love Mike Senator Nicholas stories because, actually, I'll tell you one too, but I can't tell it right now.
We'll talk later then.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, Senator Nicholas stories. Okay. And so, what shows have I done? I've been in about 250 anime and did some video games and let's see. I guess I'm known for like Greed and Fullmetal Alchemist and Ashura and Soul Eater and I played AG in Sword Art Online Ordinal Scale. Thank you. And Cliff in Fire Emblem Echoes and I play Oikawa Toru in Haikyuu and Ayato in Diabolic Lovers and a whole bunch of people that I don't have time to really name, but you can ask me about them. And I also narrate audiobooks and I do commercials and I do all the other stuff that voiceover people do when we want to make money and pay bills. So yeah, so basically you can, oh wait, this panel has like a name that was like...
Here, I have the name.
Yeah, it seemed to be very sort of...
It's called From Greed to Mithril.
From Greed to
Chris
Mithril,
Patton
right.
name.
So that would imply that we're just going to talk about Full Metal Panic and Fullmetal Alchemist, but that's not the case. You can ask me about whatever you want. It is kind of funny though that two of the biggest shows in my canon are both called Full Metal something. And I have no idea why.
Were you in the movie Fullmetal Jacket?
I was in the movie. I was like, super young, but I was in that movie, yeah. I actually played a Jill Sergeant. No. No, can I tell you something funny about that movie though? This has nothing to do with voiceover or voice acting, but Stanley Kubrick is one of my favorite directors. I didn't see Fullmetal Jacket till like 6 months ago. Like I love The Shining and Eyes Wide Shut and
Orange.
Clockwork Orange is actually my favorite film of all time. Clockwork was like my number 1, Eyes Wide Shut is like my number 2, and The Shining is my number 3 for Stanley Kubrick. But Clockwork Orange is like my favorite movie of all time. But I'd never seen Fullmetal Jacket because I'm not really big into war films. I watched it 6 months ago and I was like, huh. It's probably like my 5th favorite Stanley Kubrick film. Whatever. So now you know that for some reason it doesn't matter. All right. So, but basically, we'll just treat it like a Q&A, and you can ask me Q's, and I'll give you all the A's. It can be about whatever, voiceover, voice acting, anime, my career, your career, I don't know, ducks. Doesn't matter. Whatever. Ducks! I played Fakir in Princess Tutu, if anyone knows that show. Anytime I hear the word duck, I think about Lucy Christian.
Lucy.
Oh, wait. I'm going to tell a little story before you ask me a question. How many of you have seen Princess Tutu?
I've heard of it.
Okay, cool. So I have a funny story about that show specifically. And it has to do with Austin, Texas as well. So when the dub was finally fully released, like the full thing, ADV kind of decided to do this, I don't know how they worked this out. They were going to do this publicity thing. And for some reason, they brought the Japanese cast of the show with us, like me and Lucy and Jay Hickman and I think Jessica Boone, and they brought us together in this like hotel in Austin. So they had like the English dub cast and the Japanese dub cast, and we did like a whole panel together. And Lucy and the Japanese seiyuu for Duck had a quack off. And they actually had a quacking contest. And it was real, see this little cute, adorable Japanese girl and little cute, adorable Lucy Christian like quacking at each other. It was a surreal moment in my life. And I'm like, why? How do I get paid for this? It was very strange. Anyway, you can ask me all the questions and I'll give you all the answers. Not all the answers because it's not that kind of party, but I'll give you the answers that I can give in front of a polite audience. Yes.
I went to a previous anime convention. I met you last night. I mentioned IkiCon.
Yeah.
It was the panel was called "Getting into the Industry," and I'm curious, how did you get into the voice acting industry?
How did I get into voice acting?
Yes, sir.
It's a little bit of a detailed story. So, underneath a blood red full moon, I went into a dark clearing in a forest. I sacrificed a baby goat, and with its blood, I drew an inverted pentagram in the soil. I stood in the middle of that pentagram and summoned the Dark Lord, and I was like, Dark Lord, what am I supposed to do with my life? And he was like, you should do voiceover, specifically for anime and video games. And I said, oh, hail, Dark Lord, and the next day I got my first role. No. So what really happened was, I've been acting professionally since I was about 9 years old, mainly in theater, musical theater. I actually got my start in opera with Houston Grand Opera when I was a little kid. So I'm a singer and an actor, and I couldn't decide at that age what exactly I wanted to be, but I knew that I loved performing and storytelling and all this stuff. I didn't get into voiceover. I was a super late bloomer as far as the voiceover industry goes. I didn't have my first voiceover role, like paid gigs, until I was 28. And what happened was, do any of y'all know Jessica Calvello?
Yes.
Yes.
I never
Okay.
met her, but I've heard.
She was.
She lives here in Austin, but
She was here last year.
oh, she was here last year.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I saw an opening ceremony.
So we were doing a show together called The Chorus Line, and that actually Chris Ayers was directing. So
No.
Chris Ayers was directing Jessica, and Monica Rial was in that show too, by the way. So it was like kind of weird. And Monica and I were dating at the time. This is before I knew her for sure gay. But yeah, yes. So like Monica Rial and I were dating. Jessica Calvello was in the show. Chris Ayers was directing the show. Really weird. Small world. But Jessica like started talking to me at one of the breaks during rehearsal, and she's like, hey, I work for this company in town, and I think I don't know, I listen to you talk, and I see you like joking around and being ridiculous with your voice, and I think you'd be really good for this kind of work. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, they're called ADV Films, and they dub Japanese animation into English. And I'm like in my complete white boy ignorance, I was like, oh, you mean like Speed Racer? And she's like, well, kind of, except that style is not accepted anymore. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense, because that was on when I was like 5 years old. But she's like, they're always looking for new actors, and the next time they have an open call, why don't you go and just see what happens? And that's exactly what happened. A few weeks later, they put an open call in this little street rag, and that was called the Public News in Houston, Texas. That doesn't exist anymore. Public News, Houston, Texas still exists. But it was like, we're seeking actors to fill voiceover roles for animation. I'm like, oh, this is that company. And I went and I auditioned, and I was just like, whatever, we'll see what happens. Because I'd always wanted to try voiceover. I'd always wanted to do it, but I didn't know that I could break into it in Houston. And so about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call to come in, and I worked on this show called Master of Moskiton the Vampire. And wow, so someone actually remember that show? No, there's no way. This was 1998, you guys. Like I think Saved by the Bell might have still been on. So I go in to record, and I literally was. They gave him a name. He had a name like Simon or something, but he was a soldier bee. And he said, literally, my debut was in a bad British accent. I said, a mummy, and I died horribly. And that was my illustrious beginning to my voiceover career. And then about 2 weeks later, I got called in to play an episode character on a show called Dirty Pair. And it sounds like a bad show about underwear, but it's not. And Jessica Calvello was actually a lead in that show. Then I auditioned for a recurring semi-main character in a show called Bubblegum Crisis 2040.
Yeah.
This character named Daily Wong, who is a gay cop. So of course I was cast. And then from there, after that I got my first lead role in a show called Gasaraki, and then like stuff like Rosathon happened, and then this movie called Spriggan, which I was given the lead in, and I actually played at theaters. By the way, a funny thing about that movie, Spriggan, I was so excited because it was beautiful looking and I was the lead character and I worked really hard on it, and it was released nationwide in theaters. Okay, let me just tell you, the opening scene of Spriggan is a terrorist blowing up a high school, and the movie opened at theaters nationwide the week after 9/11. So it didn't do well, and no one, anyway, it was really sad and weird. But anyway, soon after Spriggan is when like I was cast in this little show called Fullmetal Panic, and that was when things kind of took off. That's essentially how I got started. So, but like so many other people, I have a theater background. I said this last night or yesterday during a panel. I think about 98% of us, when we tell our sort of origin story, it has to do with coming from a theatrical background. I've met a couple of people in Los Angeles, Bryce Papenbrook and Christina V are two people that I've met, and now that I live in LA and I kind of have been getting to know the LA actors' origin stories. Both of them actually started in booths when they were little kids. Because it's Los Angeles, and like Bryce's dad is actually a big VO guy, and he put Bryce in the booth for the first time at like 8. Yeah, and he played like a little kid in a show, and so sometimes it does happen in cities like Los Angeles or New York where your first VO gig is at a very young age, but in any other city in the country, when you get into voiceover, it usually happens via theater. Yeah. That was a really long answer. I'm so sorry, but not really, because that's why I'm here. No, it's great, yes.
You mentioned a theater background. What particular style of theater is your favorite to be a part of? Like singing or?
I mean, I'm kind of an oddity in the theater world because I'm not like musicals or non-musicals. I like both equally. Like to me, it's all just theater. And either you do musicals because you can sing and you enjoy them, or you don't do them because you can't sing and you don't enjoy them. But I prefer, I don't know, I've directed and been in mostly musicals, but I've also been in a lot of, this is not like a sexuality reference, but in the theater world, when something is not a musical, we call it a straight play. So when you hear an actor say, oh, it was a straight play, it doesn't mean it wasn't about gay guys. It means like, it's a non-musical play, but I've probably done 25 or 30 straight plays and probably like 30 or 40 musicals, because I sing and I like singing, but I don't have a well, I do have a preference. I like modern shows. I'm not big on the classics. This is a very controversial, quote-unquote, view. I believe the classics should be studied. I'm not sure they should be performed anymore. I kind of feel like if theater wants to keep growing and evolving and remaining relevant as an industry and as a modern art form, that maybe we need to quit doing revivals and we need to quit finding 20,000 ways to do Shakespeare, and we need to quit, I don't know, again, I think all those things need to be studied because they're part of everyone's background in history, literarily and artistically, but I think I don't know, I just wish there was a lot more good modern theater being written. If you look at Broadway right now, every musical, by the way, the Tony Awards just happened a few weeks ago.
I was in New York when that happened.
Really? Okay, so every musical that was nominated for Best Musical was either a revival or based on a film.
Yeah, like
every one of them, like Mean Girls, like Frozen, like everything's based on movies or it's stuff that's been done before. I just wish there was a little more originality in theater. I actually think we're in a better age for TV and animation and films than we are for theater right now. So I'm preaching. Wow, stop. Good question now. Yes, next question. Yes.
How's your experience with Greed?
Greed was first of all, I don't think any of us knew how much our careers would change because of Fullmetal Alchemist. up until that time, like, we were all, like, that whole crew of, like, Vic, Monica, myself, Greg, Lucy, Colleen Clinkenbeard, Mike McFarlane, all those people, we were all kind of part of that 2003 to 2006 anime bubble, where anime was first becoming really gigantic. We were all becoming kind of semi-known, and we'd all had a few really good titles under our belt, and we were happy with the way things were going. But then, like, Vic kept sort of whispering at conventions. He'd start whispering to us about this show he was recording as this lead role, Fullmetal Alchemist, and I'm like, that's cool. But that's how I was hearing about it a lot. One day I was in Dallas recording, I think I was actually recording a lead role in another show, Galaxy Railways, which is a show about trains in space, like you do. But I was on a lunch break, and Mike McFarlane was like, Patton, come in here. And I was like, what? He goes, have you eaten already? I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'm good. And he goes, come in here really quick. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, hey, have you ever played, like, a villain, a main featured villain? And I was like, no, mainly I play, like, the lead hero guys, like, dudes, angsty Twinkie dudes. And he's like, that's what I thought. He goes, but I think I got a character for you that I want to try you out on. And he said, just go get in the booth really quick and let's just try this on for size. And I'm like, okay. And I went and he showed me, he goes, have you heard about Fullmetal Alchemist? I'm like, yeah, that's that show Vic won't shut up about. I've heard of it, yeah. And he goes, yeah, right. So this is kind of like one of the villains. He's pretty cool. And he's named after one of the 7 deadly sins. His name's Greed. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. He put him up on the screen. And he's like, why don't we just try out your voice? Like, just see how you think he should sound. I'll play you a couple of scenes. And so I started just kind of riffing on a voice for the character. And I ended up, because Greed doesn't have a whole lot in that first episode in the original show. His first episode is like 10 lines or something, and then a laugh. He's like, I'm back, bitches, basically is like what he says, essentially. And we recorded all that, and he goes, and he stopped, he goes, well, how do you feel about that? And I was like, I feel good about it, you're the director, how do you feel? And he's like, no, man, that's good. Well, congratulations, you're Greed, and you just recorded your first episode. And I was like, oh, yay, sweet. I didn't realize the significance, because the night that episode aired on Cartoon Network, my socials, which at the time were AOL Instant Messenger and MySpace, like, that shows you how old that dub actually is. It came out in 2004. Everything started blowing up, like, oh my God, were you in FMA tonight? Because I couldn't say anything. And I'd never had so many responses and people like messaging me and coming at me and like whatever about being in a show. And I was like, oh damn, I guess this is a big deal. Score one for Vic. So it was fun. And it changed a lot the trajectory of our careers. But the only thing that sucked was voicing that last scene in the original. Even though, like, arguably his death in Brotherhood is a little more brutal, I did it more quick. I don't know. That scene in the first one where he's like kind of vomiting the rocks and spoiler, you've had 14 years though. But anyway, he dies. That scene, I remember I finished it at 1 a.m. And Colleen Clinkenbeard was directing me, and I did my first take of like making this sort of vomiting rock sound and dying and that my life and that whole like speech he does at the end. And I finished that for the first time, and I look up and Colleen is laughing, and I'm like, what are you doing laughing at my pain? And she's like, I'm sorry, you sound like a drunk frat boy after a really bad episode. And I was like, oh God. I was like, what do you want me to do? She's like, just make it a little more gritty and painful. I'm like, oh, more gritty and painful. Good, thanks. It's 1 a.m. by the way. But I did, and I finished it, and then I drove home from Dallas to Houston at 1 a.m., got home at 6 a.m., and went to sleep. So that wasn't terribly fun. But overall, yeah, I guess I could say it's had a huge impact on my voiceover life. In fact, I'll tell you a really, really funny, cute Greed story. When I went in to record AG in Sword Art Online Ordinal Scale, the Sword Art Online movie, the woman from Aniplex was sitting in on this. So I had like my director, I had an engineer, and then this woman, this Japanese lady from Aniplex was like sitting and monitoring the whole session, like to make sure, like she was like sort of like the quality checker, right? And she was sitting there like very stern, watching, and I'm like, that. Usually I'm not intimidated at all. I've been doing this for 19 years, and it takes a lot to kind of get me shook in the booth. But I was a little baba shook because like she was sitting there just like kind of mad dogging the whole session. We took our first break, and she was like, "Very good work. I will take you all to lunch now." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And we get out of the studio at Bang Zoom, and we get out on, and we were just walking to this place to eat, and it was the most adorable thing. She looks at me and she goes, "I want to tell you something." And I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "I did not want to fangirl during your session, but I love Greed and Fullmetal Alchemist." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks. Now you're not so scary." Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I have a question about Greed and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, but I think it might be kind of a spoiler. Is it okay to spoil? Has it been long enough?
They've had 10 years. Sorry. Yes. You can spoil it.
Okay, so like when Greed dies in Brotherhood and then he's resurrected in that other guy's body whose name I forget.
Ling?
Okay, did you voice him like even then?
Let me explain that. I'm in Brotherhood up until the Fiery Pit death. That's me. Then it's Troy Baker. Then it's Todd Haberkorn. So Greed has the three faces of Greed. But some people don't even think I'm in Brotherhood at all. Like, oh no. Like I'm in Brotherhood a good chunk up until, and I do voice that horribly painful, screamy, fiery death.
Yeah. I haven't watched the dub. I've only seen the Brotherhood sub. The first show I've seen both subbed in.
Gotcha. So no, it's three of us. So after Fiery Death, Troy Baker, then Todd is Ling. So it's confusing. It's an interesting choice they made to do that. By interesting, I mean it pissed me off a little bit. But I also I got where they were going with it, sort of technically and artistically. But yeah. Yes.
We're on the subject of villains right now. Who do you think is the most evil character you've ever voiced, and would you ever want to continue voicing villains?
I love playing villains. I like playing the angsty, like 17-year-olds because they get lots of screen time and that means more money. But villains are a little bit more challenging. The most evil villain I've ever played, I would say, if anyone knows this show called Gantz, I play this dude named Nishi, and he's a psychopathic 8th grader. He's the most evil, horrible, inhumane, and I want to, again, it's an older show, it's like an 8 or 9-year-old show. Anyway, he dies. And the thing is, he's a fascinating character because as much as you hate him all throughout the trajectory of his arc, when he dies, it's pathetic and sad. He's like calling for his mom, and he's like doing this big sort of confession, and it kind of makes you cry. I like Nishi, but then again, sometimes people ask me, is there any character you ever played that you hate? Because as an actor, there's sort of this rule or law for actors that you have to sort of love everyone you play, at least while you're playing them. Like, it goes, the old sort of Hollywood adage is, even if you're playing Hitler, you have to love Hitler while you're playing him, or else it won't come across as genuine on screen. It doesn't mean you actually like Hitler or are a Nazi. But there is one character I've played that it was so despicable and hard. Luckily, he's like a bit role. But if any of you have seen a show called Elfen Lied, I played a puppy killer kid. And I know, I didn't write it, I didn't audition for it, I was just called into the studio, I did it in one take, it took me like a minute and a half, and it was terrible. To play like a kid who like literally like bashes in a puppy's head, it was really, that's probably the worst that I've ever had to do, yeah. But apart from that, I love Creed Diskins in Black Cat. and Greed and Ashura, and I've gotten to play some really iconic sort of epic villains. And and Turles in the Dragon Ball Z franchise, I play him. So
That's right.
he's like a sassy villain, sassy Saiyan villain. Yeah, I love playing villains. It's fun. It keeps you on your toes. Did someone over here? That's okay. I'm gonna go all the way in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I remember seeing Master of the Speed on that day. I rented it from a blockbuster, and I go that far back. So, I'm wondering, how has your acting recording process, has it changed?
I hope I've gotten better. No, yeah, you get used to the technicality of it. That's the thing that I think throws most people off when they first start doing this, is how technical a job it is, because you've got the cans on, and in the headphones, you've got Japanese actors speaking, and you've got the music and effects. Then you're watching the screen to see the scene and to watch the lip flaps. Then you've got the text of what you're saying. The text is scrolling, the video is playing, and the sound is in your ears. And there's a director and engineer sitting out here, and possibly a very stern Japanese woman, who's secretly a fangirl, whatever. But you've got all that going on, and then you've got the beeps that happen to cue you into start, and hopefully you're matching the lip flaps. So I think when I recorded Master of Moskitan, which was literally the first thing I ever did, I probably sucked. Like, I probably sucked technically. I'm not saying my acting was god-awful, but I literally had 2 lines. But I probably sucked technically. Luckily, there's this wonderful Oscar-winning invention called Pro Tools that, even if you're terrible at syncing, it can usually sync pretty well for you. But I've gotten to where, dubbing anime now is it's like riding a bicycle. It's just like, oh, okay. The only challenge is, what does this character sound like? What is this character's storyline and background and arc? But yeah, I think I've gotten much, much more technically proficient.
So I think you're still kind of doing the same thing. I guess the actual physical process of how you got the setup and everything, that's still kind of...
Actually, it was different then. Back then, we were killing trees. Really, it was run on a tape. You were watching videotape run, and there were just pages, 150 pages in front of you that actually had to be paged through, and you read. So you were looking down and looking up at the screen. Now everything is kind of contained on 2 big monitors, and it's all digital. Thank goodness. But yeah, so everything's changed. That's 1998 till 2008. Oh my God, that's 20 years.
I've been watching anime since
95. Oh my God. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, everything's changed. The whole game has changed, and mostly for the better. Yeah. Someone else had their hand. Yeah.
Okay. I know you returned to play Sosuke and Fullmetal Panic. My question was, what are the differences between recording then versus recording now, with a decade in between? And have you had any, have fans told you about what was going to happen in this new season, or are you just going completely blind?
The biggest difference from recording Fullmetal Panic then and now is the way we do things. Since everything's gone to streaming and nobody really cares about hard copy that much anymore, everything gets done incredibly fast. And because Funimation is simuldubbing this show. Simuldubbing did not exist, 10, 12 years ago. So I go into this, because it's being done in Dallas, but I record from a small studio in North Hollywood, and we do it all Source Connect. So I literally go and sit in a booth by myself. There's an engineer, but then Mike McFarland Source connects with me from Dallas and directs me via Source Connect. I've said Source Connect 3 times, I need to stop. But what's different is back in the day, we would maybe record for a week, get that in the can, and then I'd come back a couple of weeks later, and it was a long, protracted process, and because of that, we got paid a lot more. Now, everything is so fast, and we're literally keeping up with the episodes in Japan, and it's just airing every week. So it's week, unless there's a filler episode, which there have been 2 in this season now, apparently. So, in fact, I have this week off, and I go back in. No, I get back to LA. Anyway, I go back in Wednesday for more Fullmetal Panic. More Fullmetal Panic! it's a quicker process. We get paid less, and I can live in Los Angeles and still record. So yeah, all those things have changed. And about the other thing, fans have been really good. A couple of them who've like read the manga and have watched in Japanese. They've been like, they've alluded to how dark it gets. I was not prepared for episode 8. I will just say, I recorded that last week and I was like, what the, oh my God. Like 2 really significant, intense things happened. I can't wait to watch like the Twitter reaction when it airs this week or tomorrow, because like, holy God, wow. I never thought Fullmetal Panic would go there, but it did. So no, they just made allusions. They never outright told me anything, which was good of them, because they could have. Next, yeah.
What was your introduction to like Funimation? Like, how did you find out about them?
Well, I found out about them because we all like, we go to these conventions, and we've become friends with voice. At the time I was living in Houston, working mainly for ADV. But you go to conventions with people from LA and Canada and Dallas, and a lot of the Houston and Dallas people became friends pretty quickly. And I think Mike McFarland brought me in for my first thing at Funimation. I can't remember. Oh, yes, I do remember. Oh my God. The first thing I ever did at Funimation was Case Closed, and I played... Thank you. But I played a character named Dexter Reynolds. He was like a 2-episode character or something, and that was my... Then I played... Zach Bolton brought me in for Shin-Chan, and I played a character in Action Bastard named Dr. Enema. So that was fun. And then my first like lead role at Funimation, I think, was Manabu in Galaxy Railways, and then I don't know. That's how it all got started at Funimation. It's just like this sort of cross-pollination thing that happens as actors hang out at cons. Like, oh, get in touch with me. We'll bring you here. But now it's so fun because anything that Funimation really wants me for, they can ostensibly just, oh, Chris is in LA now, but he can go record at Central Command in North Hollywood, because Source Connect is an amazing invention. So, yeah. Next question. Anyone? Oh, by the way, there's a rule. If it goes 15 seconds with nobody raising their hand, I start rambling about roller coasters. It's just something that's my rule. Because I'm like encyclopedically nerdy about roller coasters. Yeah?
Question. I'm a bit low on the ball, but what's Source Connect? Is that like...
Source Connect is like a cheap version of ISDN. It's like a really affordable, like ISDN will run you like, what, like 5,000 or 7,000 or something. Source Connect is like $700. And it's kind of like hyped up on steroids Skype. I'm very non-technical. I'm artsy, I'm not technical, so, and I'm also blonde and a Pisces, so just forget about it. But yeah, it's a cheap version of ISDN in short. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm 20 and I've never been on a roller coaster. What should I pick as my first one?
That's a really good question.
I don't do it upside down.
You live not too far from the best Six Flags park in the chain, which is Fiesta, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful.
10.
The only problem is how bloody hot it gets there.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's in a rock quarry. It's the cleanest of all the Six Flags parks. It's well maintained. It's well run. The ride operations are smooth and fast. But that's not what you asked. You asked, like, you want a starter coaster? Okay. No, that's not a starter coaster. I would actually say Fiesta Texas has one of the more intense mine train rides, like family mine train rides. I think it's called Roadrunner Express.
Oh yeah.
I would say start with that because
Yeah, no, that's my favorite. I'm like,
it's like a mid-level family ride, but it's intense on a mild level and it's fun. And then from that, I would say graduate up to. Don't go to Iron Rattler next, even though that's my favorite ride there. I would say go from that to, if you want to get bold, do Superman. Like, because that's considered the best B&M floorless looper like in the country. But doing that like 120-foot loop with Superman standing on top like he's gonna pee on you, that's pretty epic. So, yeah. That's my recommendation. You had a question?
My question was, what was your favorite ride?
My favorite ride is Steel Vengeance. It's Cedar Point. I just got to ride it at Colossal Con a couple of weeks ago. Oh my god! This ride has gotten so much hype. It's been being talked about for a year. It's on like the top of everyone's list. Like it's probably going to go down in 2018 as the #1 coaster in the world. I rode it. I like experienced coaster nirvana. It was this ride. You guys, if you're big coaster fans, you're probably a fan of airtime. This ride has 30 seconds of airtime. Your butt is off the seat for 30 seconds of the ride. You're just like floating. It's smooth as glass. It inverts 4 times. The first drop is 200 feet, 90 degrees, straight down. Like literally straight down. It's so good. Okay, I'm done. But yeah, my favorite ride at Fiesta Texas is Iron Rattler. My favorite ride at Six Flags Over Texas is New Texas Giant.
Someone just posted Cedar Point.
Yeah, it's playing on the
What?
screen. On the screen.
Cedar Point is Mecca. Oh my gosh, I'm going back there this fall. I can't wait. You guys, if you're a coaster nerd and you get a chance to go to Cedar Point, just do it. You won't regret it. Like my 3 favorite coasters in the world are at this park. It's Steel Vengeance, Maverick, and Millennium Force. Millennium Force, the first drop is 315 feet, and you go 93 miles an hour. Wait, hold on. I'm on the guest list for the horror drag show at Elysium tonight. Yay! Okay. My friend owns Elysium, so.
Oh my god.
What's that? Is it Steel Vengeance? You guys, that ride. It's so hard to explain. And I rode, oh my god, by the way, I rode it at night, and you get, I had my hands up the whole time. I came back into the station, my arms were covered in bug guts. Because the park is right on a lake, and that ride goes 74 miles an hour, and I was just like, yeah, hail Satan, yeah! And like, I rolled against bugs everywhere, bugs on my face, like, it was like an initiation. It was so great.
Did you get a bug in your mouth?
No, because this is how I wrote it. I was like, because I felt them hitting my face. I'm like, because I'm a vegan, so you can't swallow the bugs. Just saying. Anyway, all right. By the way, sometimes at some cons I do entire panels on roller coasters, and it people come and talk about roller coasters for an hour. I love it. It makes me so happy. Next question. Okay. See?
I should share the house announcement when you get the points up right. Anyone first, I love airship rocket ride. Linear induction's kind of my thing.
Linear induction. I will say, Poltergeist in San Antonio is a really good linear induction. By the way, linear induction is when you're launched by magnets. And it's very smooth. Also, on a linear induction coaster, you're usually braked by magnets as well. It's actually magnets that stop you. So, anyway. Another question. Yes, you.
Going back to anime, do you have any characters you regretted voicing?
Okay, so let's talk about this really fast. He asked if I have any questions I regret voicing. Any characters I regret voicing. So look, we're always grateful for work. We like to get paid for doing what we love to do. That said, it's the one dub out of the 260 shows I've been in that I have some regretty spaghetti. And my good friend Chris Harris directed it. He's a great director. It's not his fault. It's the source material. It's not even so much the character I played. It's just the fact that I was in the show and watching scenes from it makes me cringe. It's not even the subject matter. It's how the subject matter is handled. But I am in the dub of Dramatical Murders. So, if nobody knows what that is, it's like super, super sketchy, etchy, gay vampires and sadists, and I play a psychotic tattoo artist. So I'm one of the lesser reprehensible characters in the show, but I don't know. Like I'm all for like gay anime, gay whatever, as long as it's well handled and well portrayed. Especially as like a gay person, I would rather see good representation in media than creepy, awful representation in media. That's some sort of creepy, awful representation. So that's I have mild regret about that show, but that's the only one out of my entire career that I have any kind of regret about. Yeah.
This
Yes.
is my last question. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. That's why we're here.
What are your thoughts on playing Iki from Air Gear?
I love Iki from Air Gear. Has anyone else seen Air Gear?
I've seen Air Gear because my friend's in it.
Who's in it?
Blake.
Oh, Blake. Yeah, Blake and I kiss in that show.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, in midair, no less.
Yeah.
And my character's not even gay, so I guess Blake turned him out for an episode.
Oh yeah, he did. I can tell. He did really good on it.
Yeah, he's actually that's a really good role for him.
Yeah, like I saw.
What's his name? Because like when he had
Agito and Akito.
Agito and Akito. Oh, I love that show. At first, when it was pitched to me, they're like, John Swayze, I didn't even audition for that show. John Swayze's like, Chris, I'm bringing you in on this show called Air Gear. You're playing the lead role. His name's Iki, and it's kind of about rollerblades with jets on them. And I'm like, what? What did you say? What is it? And we put stickers on things? What? But then you start voicing it and looking at it, and it's like super cool. And I usually sign lots of Air Gear stuff at conventions. And I don't know, I love that show. And I do hate the way, like so many anime do, it kind of abruptly ended. And I thought the ending was like, I mean, there should be more. There should be another season. And I don't know why there isn't, but... And apparently, like, if it were to follow the manga, there should be another season,
There's been, like, subbed OVAs of Air Gear.
Really?
I've been hearing, and apparently there's one... Okay, if any of y'all have not seen OVA, I've seen it, like, one scene from OVA, so I'm sorry if I spoiled, but I think, if I'm right, Iki and Ringo kiss.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that was where, like, I got to be with Monica and Lucy in one show. Like, it was like the two girls I'm always paired with.
Yeah.
They were both in that show. Anyway, that's a really, if you haven't watched Air Gear, watch Air Gear. Because
Watch it.
rollerblading with rockets. Next question. Anyone? 13, 12. Yes!
How's it playing Diskins and Black Cat?
So, how many of you have seen Black Cat?
I've heard that.
Right. So Creed, Diskins. I played Creed right after I played Greed in Fullmetal Alchemist. If you want to know a little trade secret, the whole way I came up with Creed's voice is just Greed if he was gay. That's all it is. Because Creed obviously has a crush on Train Hartnett, like big time. And so I just took Greed and I just sort of gayed him up a little bit. And that's how I came up with Creed's voice. So it was really fun, actually, because I got to play with like... Also, Creed is more of like a on-the-nose villain. Like he's more of a blatant villain. He's more sort of blatantly crazy. Almost like his obsession with Train has made him insane. Oh, I'm a poet. So I had a lot of fun with that show, and I think Tyler Walker directed me on that, and he always joked with me about how my character is named after a horrible 90s band, or anyway. He's not wrong. I had a lot of fun working on the show. I just found it amusing at the time that I went literally from playing Greed to Creed. I'm like, is anyone going to notice that or like comment on it? But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yes, next question. Yes.
What's your favorite song?
My favorite song? Like, I'm a total music nerd, so that's a really hard question to answer. Oh, God.
That's just like, I don't know what...
Top 5.
I was at a panel once and I was like asking Monica, what's your favorite role?
You know what? I bet if I named my top 5 songs, almost nobody in this room would know any of them. But I'm gonna do it. All right. My number 1 song of all time, I think, is this song called Heartbreak Beat by the Psychedelic Furs. My number 2 song of all time is the song called I Got You by the Split Enz. My number 3 favorite song of all time is The Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen. My number 4 favorite song of all time is I Wanna Break Free by Queen. And, okay, we on a Queen, good. And my number 5 favorite song of all time is Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode.
Yes.
Those are
I love
my...
that
Depeche
song.
Mode, by the way, is my favorite band in the entire world. They're my obsession, they're my heart, they're all my boyfriends and they don't know it. They're like my church, they're like my Sunday services, I go to the Temple of Depeche Mode. Yeah, Depeche Mode is like, I've seen them live, I think 8 times now. I have like, when I still had vinyl, I had like 35 pieces of Depeche Mode vinyl. It's a bit of a problem, it's alright. Yeah, there you go. As far as like modern bands, I'm in love with like Tame Impala. I like this artist named Sophie. I like Lana Del Rey, cause gay. I like lots of shoegaze, dreamwave, indie pop, kind of electro indie stuff. I don't like pop music. I like alternative music. Yes. Good question though. I'll answer any question about music all the time. Yeah.
Just a quick question from Discord. I'm a part of Tesla or Konami.
Man, that's such a good question. No, it's Konami. Konami. Because Tessa, that's the whole don't shit where you eat kind of thing. Like, don't hook up where you work. You know what I mean? So, and also, I think Tessa would ultimately be cold and leave him. But Konami, they're gonna be lobsters. So, yeah. It's Fullmetal Panic talk. Yes, next question. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if you answered this, but what was your favorite role to do?
The one I'm currently working on. No, I have a joke about that. Like, sometimes when you're doing these big group panels and that question comes up, there's always these 1 or 2 voice actors that are like, my favorite role, it's the one I'm currently playing. And I'm like, just shut up and answer the question. Like, it's such a cop-out. Because it's a hard question to answer because I've played lots of roles. And I've been lucky enough to play some really cool characters. It's kind of a war between Hajime from Ghost Story and on the silly end of the spectrum. I think on the serious end of the spectrum, and I'm sorry more people don't know about this show, I love playing Yuichi Aizawa in a show called Canon. It's part of that trilogy of Air, Clannad, and Canon, and it's sort of Yuichi lives with all these girls, and it looks like it's going to be this dumb harem show, but it's not. It's actually super serious, and there's lots of great character development, and really serious, sad stuff happens. Those are my 2 favorites, I think. Yeah. Yes.
If you were in Canada, the world not only knows what girl was you.
That's a great question. The one who supported my gaming habit the most. That show, by the way, the thing that sticks with me the most about that show is when I recorded the 3rd incarnation in the Goddess arcs and all that. Until I had done this video game called Oculus Beat, this was the most I ever recorded on a character, and I think I kind of have very fuzzy memories about the show because of it. They called me and they were like, Patton, we need you to come in for season 3 of World God Only Knows. I'm like, okay, we need you for 42 hours. I was like, wait, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And yeah, he's very chatty this time around. Apparently, I recorded the 42 hours in 1 week, and it was a lot. And I was actually living in Maryland at the time, and I flew down to Houston, spent a week recording, and went back. Made a lot of money, but it left me with this sort of very fuzzy memory of the show, and I want to kind of go back and rewatch everything because I forget how popular that character is. But I'd say at a big convention with huge autograph lines, sometimes 40% of the people that come through have Kama stuff. And I'm like, oh god, that's right, people really like this show. And it kind of tends to get put in the back files of my memory just because of that 3rd arc, that 3rd season. By the way, in Oculus Beat, if any of you have played that game, I play the main character, Asahi. I'm right here. That's where I am. I recorded 80 hours for that game. And it was every day, 6 hours a day for 3 weeks in Los Angeles. And I wasn't even living in LA at the time. And I had a great time, but my brain was mush by the end of that session. It was I remember almost none of that game. So when people bring it to me to sign, I'm like, cool, did you like this game? Because I don't remember anything about it. Next question. Yes.
How did you feel about working on Wallflower?
Wallflower. That was the first reverse harem I did. I loved working on Wallflower because I got to play a dumb, vacuous pretty boy, and it was so easy. Like to play like this. Like I don't know. The dumb pretty boys. There's so many of them in anime, and they're so easy for me to voice. I don't know what that says about me or what it means, but I loved Wallflower. I thought it was really funny. That was Josh Greeley's debut. Like that was his first big serious role, and that show was weird as hell, but I really loved it. I appreciated the sort of offbeat nature, and I had a great time working on that show. It was a lot of fun. Yes.
I just got in a few minutes ago, so you may have answered this already, but so I think the first thing I saw that you were in was Canon.
Oh, you saw Canon.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone mentioned it because I just got in here. Was that emotionally difficult to record?
Oh, you may not have been in here, but I said that was my favorite role to work on.
Oh.
Yeah, it was emotional, actually, and I don't usually get affected. A couple of shows have affected me, like actually in the booth. One of them was Princess Tutu.
That was a really good one.
Canon was another one. It was very sad, and it kind of got me right in the feel centers. Yeah, it was very emotional, and I didn't think it was. It kind of caught me by surprise. I was like, because Yuichi, he's interesting in that, like, it seems like he's a little bit of a sarcastic kind of a dick for about the first half of the show, and then he starts like showing his true colors, which he's got a heart, and he's actually good to these girls. Anyway, yes, it was. To answer your question, it was emotional. Yeah, it really was.
I'm sorry if I made you answer the same question twice.
No, you didn't. It's just someone asked before, like, what were your favorite roles, and I said my favorite funny role was Hajime in Ghost Stories, but my favorite serious role was Yuichi in Canon. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that show. I think it's highly underrated. I think it's overshadowed by Clannad. So not that Clannad is bad. I'm just saying in that sort of family, I think Canon gets overlooked.
I actually let one of my friends borrow the first half of Canon on DVD.
Yeah.
Never got it back.
Really?
That was weird. Like
You should sue him. I'm kidding, don't do that. Next, I've got like 5 minutes. Yes.
What's your favorite genre of anime to do voiceover for?
My favorite genre is like slice of life, hyper realistic, which there isn't a lot of. It's always either like mech, magical, supernatural. Actually, I have two favorites. I like slice of life realistic, and I like vampires. I love vampires. I'm obsessed with vampires. And the fact that I finally got to play one makes me so happy. I'm just sad that he's a little bit of a predator. But vampires are predators, so that's accurate. But like, that's a really creepy group of boys. But vampires, and then like slice of life, like Shinkai stuff. Actually, my favorite slice of life show that I was ever in is a show that I bet no one in this room has ever seen. It's called Princess Nine, and it's about a girls' softball team. And I just play one of the boys who falls in love with one of the girls on the softball team, Monica. Surprise.
Surprise.
And so I like those. I like those really simple. Canon is kind of like that actually. The simple, everyday like stuff that happens in everyday life, like vampires. Yes.
With as much as you like music, I was wondering what you thought about doing Kids on the Slope.
I liked Kids on the Slope, and I liked that it sort of like explored jazz and all that. But as far as being someone who loves music and loves singing, my favorite was Narumit Icon Brothers, because we actually got to sing in every episode, and actually sometimes we sang 6 or 7 songs per episode. So if you haven't seen Narumit Icon Brothers, that's a musical, and I sing about being in love with a panda many times. So yeah. That was my favorite. But Kids on the Slope is a great show, and I was kind of surprised at how under the radar it flew. We thought it was going to be gigantic, like everyone was going to jump on it, especially given like who made it and everything. Nobody cared. Like literally, since that show's come out, I think I've signed 10 Kids on the Slope DVDs. I'm like, oh my god, wow. So kind of sad, but I thought it was a really beautiful show. I think I'm going to do 2 more. You.
Director?
Yep.
Oh dear.
The question was, have you ever had a really bad director? The answer is yes. The thing is, I can't name who it is because they're kind of prominent. Prominent voice actor, human. It's a woman. Prominent voice actor, pretty prominent producer and director, loved by a lot of people, worst director I've ever had in my life. It's okay, it's all right. And I told her as much too. We got in a big email fight one time. She's like, "What's your problem with me?" I'm like, "You're a horrible director." I totally said it. Of course, she's never cast me again, but that's okay. She doesn't do a lot of directing nowadays. She mainly, God, if I'm not careful, I'm going to give you too many clues. So anyway, it's not Monica Rial. Monica Rial is one of my best friends in the world. She's incredibly talented. It's not her. But yes, I've had I've had 2 terrible directors in my career. That was one of them.
You're also friends?
Oh, no, we're not friends. No, we do not like each other. In fact, this is really funny. At a convention about a year and a half ago, we were both guests there, and we were pleasant to each other. We don't really like each other. And right when I was rolling to the airport, I got a note. "Oh, you got an upgrade to first class. Do you want it? It's like for $25 you can sit in first class." I'm like, "Oh yes, take that." I go to sit in my first class seat, and she's in the next one. And I was like, "Damn it!" And we like flew home together, like with our noses buried in books, like do. Thankfully, first class is kind of big, so like, wait, who's this? Who's this? Hello? Hello? Yeah, who is this? Okay, I'm gonna have to call you back because I'm working right now. It's okay. Call me back in about an hour though. Okay. Hung up. I was gonna try to get him to say hi to you guys. Anyway. He might call me back during my autograph session though, and that'll be fun. I actually don't really want him to call back. I just said it'd be nice. Oh, where was I? Oh my god, I can do one more question. I thought it was gonna be something exciting.
Sarah's
I was gonna
here.
put the microphone up. It wasn't exciting. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Who's like your favorite or one of your favorite other voice actors, other than yourself?
Other than myself.
Do you want specifically anime related or
Someone you think is really good in the industry.
someone I think is really good in the industry is Jason Liebrecht. He's not as known. He's
Yato.
He's Lavi in The Gray Man.
Yato from Noragami.
He's really good. There's so many really great people. Of course, Monica's ridiculously talented. I was just at a con with Steve Bloom. Steve Bloom is great. And he's also a great human. Yeah, and then as far as like overarching, like voice-over gods, whatever, I'm a huge fan of Dan Castellaneta, Hank Azaria, and Harry Shearer. Basically, everyone on The Simpsons is like a demigod to me. So, yeah, I would say those are my people as far as like who I love. Thank you so much for coming, you guys. I'll see. I have autographs. I think at 2:00. So
There's also VIP up there.